Yes, we're on the record.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, June 29th, 2022. This meeting of the South Orange and Maplewood Board of Education is being live streamed as well as recorded for storage and viewing on our district website. The public can participate during the hearings as individuals and delegates by signing up for audio public speaks via WebEx, which is on a form available on our website. Adequate written notice of this meeting of the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education has been sent to both townships and village clerks, the Star Ledger, the News Record, Tapit-Tasoma.net, and the Village Green. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Burnside, please note for the record that Board Member Tunsford informed us he'd be a few minutes late, and that Board Member Malspina has informed us that she may need to leave early this evening. And with that, can you please call the roll?
Board Member Susan Bergen.
Here.
Board President Thayer Joshua.
Here.
Board Member Alyssa Malaspina.
Here.
Student Representative Vanessa Prevalon. I thought I saw her.
I did too. Might be having connection issues.
Board Member Aaron Siders.
Board Member Siders, if you're there, you're muted.
Here. Thank you.
All right. Board Member Arun Badlamani.
Here.
Board Member Caitlin Whitletter.
Here.
Board Member Courtney Wingfield.
Here.
Board Member Johanna Wright.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me read through this quickly. The school board meeting is a business meeting in public and not a meeting with the public. Oftentimes, it may appear to members of our audience that the Board of Education takes action with very little comment and in many cases, unanimous vote. Before matters placed on the agenda at a public meeting, administration has thoroughly reviewed the matter with the superintendent. If the superintendent is satisfied that the matter is ready to be presented to the board, it is referred to the appropriate board committee. Members of the board committee work with administration and the superintendent to ensure members fully understand the matter. After the committee discusses the matter, it is shared with other board members, and only then is it placed on the agenda for board discussion and action at a board meeting. We are now at the time for hearings of individuals and delegates, known as public speaks. This is an opportunity for you to share concerns about an item on the agenda, but not a time for dialogue with the board. The board requests that you state your name and the town of your residence for the record. We will set the time limit to 3 minutes for each speaker, and we ask that you respect that time limit. We must cut you off so it does not appear as if we are giving anyone an advantage to share their views over another individual. Speakers have the full protection of free speech during public speaks. However, this forum does not protect the subject of your free speech from pursuing libel or slander charges. And finally, the board recommends that all members of our community pursue the chain of command.
Excuse me, President Joshua.
Yep.
Virtual motion.
And before we get to that, I'd like to make a motion to hold this matter and hold this meeting in a virtual manner. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Bergen. All in favor? That appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. All right, and our first public speaks is from Jennifer Warren.
It does not appear Jennifer Warren is present.
Board member, Mr. Bond, I do see Student Rep Prevalon as an attendee if you want to bump her up. Thank you, sir. Our next public speaks is from Sally Unsworth.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Sally Unsworth, and I live in South Orange. I would like to commend the students and teachers of Jefferson Elementary who presented the Board of Education with 5 excellent options for the renaming of their elementary school. When I spoke before this body a year ago, I could never have imagined just how emotional and proud I would feel when reading the biographies of these 5 phenomenal women, each more worthy than the next. There is truly no losing with any of them, and this is a testament to the educators who helped shepherd this process and truly understood the weight of this assignment. I have watched the last few board meetings and have full faith that this body can make the final decision due to all of the groundwork already laid by the students. Even those who may have felt that this was a distraction have realized what a wonderful civics lesson this has already been for the larger community. The only distraction now would be to delay the renaming. I think 2 individuals really touched on the importance of an expeditious decision in their recent public comments. One was Leslie Kerner, who reminded this body of the important work of the PTA in serving as ambassadors for change within the district. Having served on the PTA boards of 2 different elementary schools in this district, I know that the PTA is a crucial channel of communication and community building. With the summer to prepare for a name change, the school administration and PTA can work on a rollout that incorporates both the intention and the final phase of implementation necessary to make this a successful endeavor. Finally, I appreciated hearing from another resident, David Humer, who on Monday night made thoughtful observations about why this decision is yours. He praised you for your respectful and thorough dialogue, and I couldn't agree more. Mr. Humer also made a suggestion for a commemorative plaque as well as a community essay contest to further engage with Jefferson's legacy. I would go one further. It does not escape me that I would have never heard of 3 of the women presented, who also happen to be CHS graduates, which is wonderful, without this renaming work. I would love to see our students and educators continue to highlight the great figures of our local, regional, and national histories through in-depth civics lessons like this. Their learning discoveries are precious and essential if we are to move forward as a nation. As I said last year, they lead and we all learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bonds, can we try Jennifer Warren again?
Unfortunately, she doesn't appear present.
Thank you. And that concludes our public speaks. Dr. Taylor, care to respond?
I will respond briefly. Just want to thank the person who gave some of their evening to share such a thoughtful reflection of this work. I also get a little emotional thinking back almost 10 months ago when the board had this discussion and we were trying to brainstorm the best way to approach it. And I recall, the discussion leading towards our students and seeing the work that they did. I think it exceeded the expectations of all of us who participated in that conversation when that was the final outcome, to really engage our students and make this, a real life civics lesson with really strong connections to governance. So thank you for those thoughtful comments. And again, thank you to the Jefferson leadership, Jefferson teachers, and students and all who were involved.
Thank you for that. We'll now move to the action portion of the meeting. There's 2 different resolutions. I'll bring them in separately. First, I'd like to make a motion to move resolution 4319 A and B. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Bergen. All in favor? All right, that appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. Now discussion for 4319. Mr. Bernstein, come to you. Can you give, I know that we talked about this in our last couple of meetings, but can you just give the board a brief update on resolutions 4319 A and B being presented this evening?
Yes, this is for 6 54 passenger buses that we have. We have 2 offers. They're both the same in monetary respect. They're both $10,000 above the price that we paid. The first offer is going to be from the Hunterdon County ESC, and the second offer This is from Lenape Valley Regional School District.
Thanks for that. Any comments or questions on 4319 A and B? Seeing none, I'll close discussion. Mr. Burnside, please call the roll on resolution 4319 A and B.
Board Member Bergen,
Yes.
Board President Joshua,
Yes.
Board Member Malaspina,
No.
Board Member Siders,
Yes.
Board Member Board Member Vadlamani,
Yes.
Board Member Wingfield,
Yes.
Board Member Whitletter,
Yes.
Board Member Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll now like to make a motion to bring resolution 4320 for discussion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Bergen. All in favor? That appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. All right, we're now in discussion for resolution 4320. Okay, if I see hands, but I know if they don't mind, I'm going to ask Board Member Malaspina if she has any comments, if she wants to go first, because I know she wasn't able to be with us at our last meeting.
I do have some comments on this. Thank you for asking me because I was not at the last meeting. I appreciate the work that everybody has done on this, especially the students. I am rather upset, though, that the resolution is not correct factually, and it does not represent really what the students did, which was they picked two choices. It is very clear in the presentations that were presented to the board that they picked two choices, and I really believe, based on what was stated in our original resolution that says the district students should be involved, that all students should be involved. We learned today that from Dr. Taylor that 14 students were involved in this process, not even the whole school. So to me, that made the final decision. The school was involved partially in the process, but the final decision was made by 14 students. To me, I really believe we should let all students be involved in this decision because they are all great candidates. Would I, had I been on the board, voted to rename the school? No, I wouldn't have, because I believe that we have many other things that we should be dealing with instead of spending a lot of time on this. But we are here. And since we are here, we are at the point where I do believe that students' voices should be heard and the community voices should be heard. And also that the resolution as written is factually incorrect.
Thank you for that. Before I ask Dr. Taylor to respond, I wanted to actually, when we ask Dr. Taylor to respond, and I'll come back to you. I know that you don't have a whole lot of time with us, but I'll ensure I'll come back to you in short order. So Dr. Taylor, can you respond? And then I'll go Board Members Bergen and Wink. And I did it. Board Members Bergen and Whitletter.
Sure. I think that one thing that's been obvious throughout this process and was really obvious in the policy committee meeting when this was presented by the teachers, the principal and the assistant principal, that this was a very thoughtful and inclusive process. One thing that was noted by a board member at our last meeting that I would emphasize is that part of our process and part of the thoughtfulness of the boards and my leadership during this process was protecting Jefferson, right? So I think that the presentation that we put in your Friday packet and the full presentation that was eloquently presented during the policy meeting describes the involvement of the students and describes, how inclusive that process was. I would not like to focus on that because I don't want to, again, give the impression that we're not satisfied or that we have criticism of the process that was put forward by our students, teachers, and administration. I recommend it. I think that they went above and beyond a simple straw poll vote of students. They engaged with the CHS alumni, authorities to really assist with this. And so I stand by it. And as I shared earlier with the board, the principal verifies that all 5 of these candidates represented the attributes that the students held, which are the attributes that the district also values.
Thank you for that, Board Member Bergen, and then Whitletter.
Thank you. It is with great excitement and gratitude to the Jefferson School community that I would like to make a motion to rename Jefferson Elementary School the Delia Bolden Elementary School. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, I'll hold that motion for a moment because I know Board Member Whitletter had her hand up. I do want to come to her before I come back to that. Is that okay, Ms. Butler? Am I allowed to do that? And am I allowed to hold a motion?
You had indicated before the motion that you were going to hear questions and hear discussions. So I would recommend that you allow the discussion.
Thank you. Board Member Whitletter.
Thank you. If this were just up to me, I would pick Amalia Laya Keirs, the first woman and second African-American person to be appointed as a justice on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. But it's not just up to me. It was up to the students at Jefferson. That was the resolution. I ran for the Board of Education on the campaign slogan, Student Voices Matter. As I sit here today, I'm frustrated and disappointed that our students' voices are being ignored and belittled. The board committed in a formal resolution to involving Jefferson Elementary School students and the district student community in the process of making a historic name change to the Jefferson School. It has become abundantly clear that the board is not making good on its promise. Tonight's decision is not about a school name for me. This is about keeping our commitments on what was explicitly identified and approved by the board in the renaming resolution. Even more disturbing to me is that our leadership willfully chose to nullify the work of our students, presenting all 5 candidates as their final selections. The Jefferson students had selected 2 final candidates for the renaming of their school, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Erna Hoover. And I think it's really important to share some of those reasons. On Ruth, they said she was not only a judge, she was Jewish, she was a woman, and she died not too long ago in 2020. So it would be nice to name our school in memory of her. And on Erna, she was a woman in the STEM world in the 40s, which was pretty rare for the time. And she helped a lot in the modern world of technology. She was very smart and hardworking. I like that she represents a new legacy. She is all of the things we could put into that acronym. There were no quotes shared about the other 3 candidates who were listed as other notable CHS alumni who were given serious consideration by our students for the renaming. For some reason, a faction of the board is hastily pushing this renaming through, which is contrary to the input we received from our students and contrary to the directive the board created for this project. I know the faction I'm referencing will say that the students liked all 5 candidates, and I'm not refuting that. What I take great issue with is the misrepresentation of their hard work by our board leadership. We have committed ourselves to getting input from our students in making this important decision, and now that input is being distorted and minimized. Moreover, we have since learned that only 14 students were on the subcommittee that reviewed these 5 candidates and made their final 2 selections. Unfortunately, these names were not shared with the broader Jefferson student body for educational purposes or for ultimately their very important vote. Let's give our students the opportunity to make their voices heard, to vote for the name of their school, and to embody their vision for Jefferson in creating their legacy in Maplewood's history. There is no urgency in our acting today, and let's take the time to do this right. In closing, I'd like to emphasize the important words of our student board representative, Noah Morose, who said, "Our students walking into the building every single day will be the most impacted by the decision. It may take more logistical time to do it, but you're taking that time that would be used instead of going ahead with it to sample the community that will be impacted for a long time by this decision. So in my opinion, it's worth it." I recommend that we follow the resolution as it was written in August 2021 and give the Jefferson Elementary School students and the district student community at large the opportunity to vote on these 5 inspiring candidates for the renaming of Jefferson to ensure that the process is fair and representative of our collective student body.
Board Member Wright and then Vadamani.
Oh, thank you. Wow. For me, it's the same issue. The rush to change the name is the real change. And I'd like to know, I know we discussed it, but we didn't get the final figures on what the cost to the change of the website and the other signage, which are the reasons for the change of the name right now. I'd like to know how much is the cost. And I would like to know that before we vote. Also, how much, I'd like to know the amount that will need to be spent and what is saved by making the change at this moment. And the second thing is Maplewood named a street very close to Jefferson School after Jefferson. The contradiction of a street being named after Jefferson near a school now that is not being named after him gives a major contradictory message to the residents, students, and communities at large. Does it mean that Maplewood, the town, still wants to honor enslavers, but the board and the Jefferson descendants who denied Jefferson had slaves until the 1990s or so, or had a relationship with Sally Hemings, who sullied their white lineage, does not. And I really found it ironic that we've identified Jefferson in our resolution as an enslaver, and we say that we don't want to hold him up as a role model. But, you know, we are the main impediment, the board, in making the settlement terms of things for our students to help them out, to move them ahead, to put supports in place for him. For me, that's a form of enslavement too. And we're not trying to get rid of that activity. And we also need to stop arresting Black children when there are other options. So I think that enslaver should not be used in the resolution. The term needs to be replaced.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Board Member Vadamani.
So I find it very strange that board members who've always complained about this being a distraction want to take this back to the community and distract us for the next 1 year. I mean, that just does not work. I mean, let's be adults. This is our job. It does not matter what the list says. In fact, the list may have had 0 names. It does not matter. It's the board that matters. We've heard enough people. Let's move forward, change the name, and move on with everything else. Thanks.
Thank you. Board Member Telesford.
I'll echo what Arun said. Taking it back to the community, we want to take it back to the community because it's an important part of the community. It's been here for many decades. And if that's the case, then we need to apply that to everything in the community that's been here for decades. If it's been here for almost a century, then we shouldn't just say the board can decide. We have to say, let's go to the people. And if we do that, yes, things will take a very long time then.
Thank you, Board Member Telesford. Board Member Malspina and then Wright. I'm sorry, Malspina and then Whitletter.
Thank you. I have
I'm really
two things.
throwing it out. I'm sorry. I was just joking with Caitlin. I'm everything but her name. I apologize. Go ahead, Board Member Malspina.
Okay, I'm good now. I take umbrage to the word enslaver also, but part of it has to do with the fact that we keep saying security is an issue, that we're worried about our children. Well, the reason that security, that we have had problems is because of the idea and the words that were used in the original resolution, which I was not a part of, that stated that he was an enslaver and not a good role model. If we are trying to believe that security is still a problem for our children, then I really think that that needs to come out of the resolution, because that is part of what is causing some of the issues that we are seeing. Do I agree with them? No, I don't think we should be seeing these issues. I think it's horrible, but we know that that is part of the reason we're doing that. And if it's safety and security, which Dr. Taylor has mentioned numerous times is so important, then that part should come out. And as for Chloe, two different things. Please don't try to bring in something that is not a part of this. We wrote the policy. I didn't write the policy. You got the board majority wrote the policy that stated that district students should be involved in the process. All I am asking is that district students have the opportunity to do that as the policy was presently written.
Okay, I see lots of hands. I said Whitletter. I know board member Malaspina just spoke, so I know that's an old hand. Malaspina, I'm so goodness, sorry guys. Whitletter, Bergen, Telesford.
I just wanted to clarify that my recommendation wasn't to send it out to the full community. At this point, it was just to ensure we have fair representation of our collective student body. One thing I did ask Dr. Taylor today that we were not able to uncover was what was the demographic breakdown of those 14 students, and were those 14 students representative of our larger student body? And we didn't have the answer for that. So I just think it's really important that students can weigh in on this decision. That's, what my focus is, not on bringing it to the broader community. And we could put this in the digital backpack, have it as a survey link for as soon as kids get back in September. I mean, all of these things happen pretty instantaneous now in terms of filling out a survey, give kids a week to do it. But the reality is this should have been done prior to even coming to the board table, as stated in the resolution. Students already should have had an opportunity to weigh in on this, not just the 14 students who are in the subcommittee, but the Jefferson students and our district students. So, I don't know why we feel we're rushed when the district didn't comply with the resolution as it was stated.
Thank you. Board member Bergen and then Telesford.
Thanks. I think, first from the presentation, it was clear that all Jefferson students were involved, but I just want to point out that we just had 2 elected members of the Board of Education say that they are uncomfortable calling Thomas Jefferson an enslaver, and that is exactly why we cannot have a school building named after him if members of the Board of Education are not even comfortable discussing that history and reckoning with it at a public meeting.
That is totally.
Board member Malaspina, please, let's try to keep some order. I appreciate it.
Well,
Board
I would
member
appreciate
Bergen.
the ability to respond to that.
Point of
false
order.
statement.
Thank you. We're trying to, we got a lot of hands up on screens. I'm trying to, conduct this as politely and responsibly and respectfully as possible. And I need everyone to cooperate in order to make that happen. Let's let board member Bergen finish her remarks, and then we will move to board member Telesford.
I'm finished. I'm prepared to vote on the motion that I made.
Thank you. Board member Telesford.
I'll just say the resolution said the community, and that was the Jefferson community. So I think the students did this work, and so we should honor that. And it should not be open to the entire district. For instance, I went to Clinton School. In elementary school, I don't care about Jefferson because I'm in Clinton School. When I get to middle school, I care about South Orange Middle. I don't care about Maplewood. And when I get to Columbia, I care about Columbia. It's not the whole district votes on this. It is Jefferson students that are there. This is their school. Let them make that decision. And then, yes, I'll even echo the whole Thomas Jefferson was an enslaver. Just like, I will remember that the father, well, I say the father because I went to school with his son. He said that we should be thankful for our ability to be here because of Thomas Jefferson. And I just want to make the point that Thomas Jefferson had over 600 slaves. He freed 2 while he was alive and 7 after he died, which means I basically have about a 1.5% chance of being free in Thomas Jefferson's world. So I'm not thankful to him. I'm thankful to the people that made sure that I could actually be free and actually be on the board here with you today. So if he's an enslaver, that is what he was. And I think we should not gloss over that. If that makes people angry, I understand. But yes, those are the facts.
Thank you. Board Member Malspina.
Thank you. I would like to clarify that I fully believe that he was an enslaver. I do not disagree with that. I believe that at the time, a large percentage of people were enslavers. And we should be teaching the children the history so that they understand that. Nowhere do I believe in any way, shape, or form that enslavement was good, anything like that. And the idea that you have stated, Ms. Bergen, the opposite is totally incorrect. He was an enslaver. I am just concerned from a security point of view by putting the wording in the resolution. I am not denying that it occurred. I am saying that if we are using the argument that we are concerned about the security of our students, then maybe that wording shouldn't be in there. Not that he wasn't an enslaver, because he was, but that we should maybe not be putting that wording in there.
Thanks. Board Member Whitler, I'm not sure if that's an old hand. You're muted if you're talking.
No, it wasn't an old hand. I just kept mine
Okay.
up. No, that's what
Well,
I'm
in that case, I
fighting
need to go to Board Member Wingfield because who hasn't
Oh.
chimed in a while.
Do you
So
want
just
to
try
go
to.
to her? Do you want to go to her
Yep.
first and then I can?
Yes, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Board Member Wingfield.
Yep. I think that if we're concerned about security, we shouldn't be trying to water down language that exists in the resolution. I think that that's setting a terrible precedent for our students. Nor do I think we should normalize something as brutal as the enslavement of other human beings by contextualizing it in a time period where that may have been perceived to be normal. And instead, I think that we need to move with deliberate haste this evening to make this decision so that we can put this behind us on our list of things to do and continue to move on to board business.
Thank you. Board Member Whitletter and then Wright.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I'm in total agreement with you, Kwawi. That's sort of my argument, is that we should let the district students decide. Because the process, and I don't think we really had an accurate depiction of it when we had the initial well, I was in the policy meeting when they went through it, but all Jefferson students came together to design the mission and try to understand, what do we embody as students? What does Jefferson represent? And out of that came the word legacy. And from legacy, it's like, well, who is representative of the acronym legacy and all of those words that they use to describe them? There were 14 students involved in that process. And so why wouldn't we bring it back full circle with those 14 students saying, here's what we came up with based on everything that we talked about as a student body, and let's vote together on these 5 candidates, which candidate we want to name the school after. And that's been my position from the beginning. I just wanted to clarify, and it seems like you're in agreement with the notion that Jefferson students should be deciding this and not a Board of Education.
Board Member Wright.
I absolutely agree with you, Board Member Whitletter. And in terms of our, slave owners and stuff, we know that even John Quincy Adams, the 6th president of the United States and the son of the 2nd president of the U.S., John Adams, he was the one who represented the slaves on the Amistad and won their case, owned slaves. So we all know that. But the most important thing here is the ability of all of these children to be represented. I'd like to know what those demographics were as well in terms of the children who chose these names. And we should be looking at the children and let them guide us and not adults. We said that's what we were going to do, open it up to the district students. And it seems that we have not. So that is a problem. The other thing is, I would like to know those figures, those numbers on what it's going to cost, because everybody seemed to think that the numbers were sort of guiding this in terms of what the cost would be. So If our BA could weigh in, I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Burnside, I do believe we got a quote for a sign or a guesstimate, if you will.
Yes, for the sign out front, it was approximately 6,000. And the lettering on the school, we're still researching that.
But I don't know if we even, I don't
So
think we care
we
about
don't
that.
have-
Board member,
no.
right? Hold on one second,
I'm
please.
sorry.
Thank you. I don't think there's any. I don't think we're looking at the lettering on the school, right? I think what we're really more concerned about is the sign. As I've said in the past, we, when we are in person, we sit in the fielding school. We haven't touched that lettering at all. We just do a sign up there that says Board of Education Administration Building. Newstead School is still etched in at the South Mountain Annex. So, part of that could be just leaving that there as a cheap and easy way to recognize some of the legacy in addition to other ways. But I just want to point that out, that I think the one area we're immediately concerned with is replacing I guess it's a metal sign that's in front of the building. So thank you. Board Member Valamani. If you're talking, you're muted, sir.
Again, I find it extremely strange that every possible methods are being used to delay the obvious. Okay. I mean, first we said, let's get the community involved. We said, no, let's get all schools involved. Move on. Let's get Jefferson kids involved, which they were. Now we can't use because there's a particular word I don't like. And next will be, today's Wednesday. I'm sorry, I can't vote on Wednesdays. I mean, listen, we're grown-ups. We are representatives. We've been elected. Let's do our job and let's take the hits. It's okay. Listen, I understand there is security problems, but I don't want to talk about the kids anymore. I don't want to say who was involved in it anymore. Because yes, there are lots of people in the world who probably won't like this decision. That's fine. And that's why we are voting. So let's do our job. Bring it up. Vote. And if you're uncomfortable with any of these things, you're welcome to vote no. And I cannot believe every time board members bring up saying, oh, I was not part of that. I'm only part of this. No, the board is part of the whole thing. It's one board. Yes, you could have voted against it. That's fine. But it is the board. So you can't selectively be part of a decision and not be part of another decision. You're part of every decision or no decision.
Thank you. Board Member Siders.
Hi. On Monday, we voted that the board was going to make this decision. So I just feel we don't need to discuss taking it back to the community. Again, we made that decision on Monday. My suggestion is let's move forward with the vote.
Thank you. Last comments from board members, Malspina and Whitletter. And that.
I'm sorry, my hand was up accidentally. I've said what I have to say.
Board Member Whitletter.
I was just going to say, thank you for hearing me. I do appreciate you, Board President Joshua, for allowing me to speak tonight. The fact that one of our board members tried to make a swift motion to avoid this conversation and this dialogue. I mean, these are the type of things that are really frustrating because, as we like to say, as board members, we can have our say, but we can't have our way. This entire process, we gave the district months to do this. This entire process from when we first had the presentation, which was last Monday, to now is less than 2 weeks. So we have every right as board members to sit here and to talk to one another. And the fact that there's people on this board that think that they are above even listening to their board colleagues is really, really sad. So thank you again, Board President Joshua, for allowing me to speak tonight because there was an effort to once again stifle conversation amongst our board colleagues.
Thank you. Let me just try to sum up everything that I heard, or actually just I've really been pointing at folks and driving the ship, offer a few comments before we move forward. In the late spring of 2020, the board was presented with a petition, if you will, to rename Jefferson Elementary School. And that came out of the national, what some of us call racial reckoning this country dealt with for about 2.5 weeks. And to understand that the understanding was that there was a school in this district named after someone who owned slaves. That petition was signed by several hundred, I don't have it in front of me, several hundred members of the community. And what I think resonated most with those of us on the board at that time, almost every single elected leader in town. So when I think about who is asking for this change, if it's not just a couple of people who felt comfortable putting their names to that petition, it's the people that they elected to serve in government. So taking that into account, I think it was clear on the board in the late spring, early summer of 2020, about 2 years from today, that this wasn't the time. It would have been a distraction. Our students hadn't been in school in 3.5 months. Our focus was singularly focused on helping to support the superintendent and administration resume in-person instruction, and to the extent that it was possible, and to the extent that it was not possible, offer fully engaging virtual learning. That was our focus. Moving that forward, in June of 2021, I was invited to speak at South Orange's, or I guess it was in South Orange, the Juneteenth celebration. It was then it finally struck me that it is impossible, not impossible, but it is beyond inappropriate. It just doesn't make any sense, frankly, for us as a community to put so much effort into Juneteenth and then send our students to school on a building named after an enslaver. We have a wonderful opportunity in front of us this evening. When we are done with this decision, whatever it may be, there's an opportunity for celebration throughout the community, including all those folks and the elected leaders who signed that petition to help make this change. When we are done in September, all of us will have our big smiling faces when we go up there and look at the end of the construction project. Right, Dr. Taylor, we're still on target, September work? All right. So we're gonna go up there and tour these new classrooms, big smiles on our faces. We're slated to finish 4 months ahead of schedule, which is a wonderful achievement in and of itself. It's a perfect opportunity while we're there, smiling and taking pictures, to take pictures in front of a new sign of a school that will have a new name. And with that, I'd like to read the resolution into the record before acting on the motion. Resolution 4320, renaming of Jefferson Elementary School. Whereas the Board of Education may consider a change in the name of an existing school or facility to ensure and model an inclusive, welcoming, and respectful learning environment, and whereas naming a school for a person is to honor that person and to hold them up as a role model for students, and whereas the Board of Education previously adopted Resolution 4190 at its August 16th, 2021 meeting, directing the superintendent or a designee to work with the students of Jefferson Elementary School to seek input from the district student community, propose a new name for that school to the Board of Education by June 30th, 2022, so that the board may vote on the adoption of such name to take effect commencing with the 2022-2023 school year. And whereas the Jefferson Elementary School community recommended to the Board of Education 5 names for consideration, which the board shared with the public at its June 20th, 2022 meeting and discussed further during its June 27th, 2022 meeting. And whereas the Board of Education will no longer hold up an enslaver as a role model for students of the South Orange Maplewood School District, therefore be it resolved that Jefferson Elementary School be renamed to Delia Bolden Elementary School, and be it further resolved that the district take the necessary steps, including but not limited to installing new signage and updating the district website to reflect the new name by September 8th, 2022. And be it further resolved that the district consider how to memorialize the building's previous name of Jefferson Elementary School and the reasons for the name change on school grounds by June 30th, 2023. May I have, it was already second. Mr. Burnside, can you please call the roll?
Board member.
Sorry, I just point of clarification. We had another name that was also brought up as a possible name, which was Amala Kersey. Are we just going to vote? for that
Board
one and
member-
not,
For a process point, for a process point, this is, and I know you were with us on Monday, but as a process point, it was a term we do this similar to we've done officers, or probably more relevant as we've done when we've had to appoint board members. The resolution was given with a name, motion was given with a name and seconded. If that name gets 5 votes, that will be the name. If it doesn't, we'll move on to the next name, and the next name will be voted on. If that gets 5 votes, then that will be the name, et cetera, et cetera.
thank
Okay.
you for the clarification. I was confused.
No problem.
I liked them all. Okay,
Appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Board member, Mr. Burnside, can you please call the roll?
Board Member Wright,
No,
Board member Wright, you're muted.
I'm sorry. No.
Board Member Whitletter,
No.
Board Member Wingfield,
Yes.
Board Member Vadlamani,
Yes.
Board Member Tellisford,
Yes.
Board Member Siders,
Yes.
Board Member Malaspina,
No,
Board President Joshua,
Yes.
Board Member Bergen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And again, a very, very warm thank you to this, to the Jefferson Elementary School community for their yeoman's work during this process. And thank you to Dr. Taylor and his team for leading it through that process. All right. We're now on to new business. Is there any new business this evening?
Second Public Speaks.
Oh, we're not on the public. Sorry, you're right. Okay, we're now at time for our second public speaks. This is an opportunity for you to share your concerns about an item on the agenda, but not a time for dialogue with the board. The board requests that you state the name and the town of your residence name and town of residence for the record. We will set the time limit to 3 minutes for each speaker, and we ask that you respect that time limit. We must cut you off so it does not appear as if we're giving any individual an advantage to share their views over another individual. Speakers have the full protection of free speech during public speaks. However, this forum does not protect you from the subject of your free speech pursuing libel or slander charges. And finally, the board recommends that all members of our community pursue the chain of command.
Board President and Solicitor, just one point of order, just to make sure that we're okay for the record. In your agenda, after the action was the motion to move to executive session. Is it okay if we just take a moment to move that in the agenda just so it follows along with the minutes appropriately, or is it not that big of a deal?
It would be cleanest to move that. And I do not see the second Public Speaks
It's
listed in the
there. Yeah, it's there. It's under, or it's under probably, well, it says hearings of individuals and delegations, public speaks, audio comment, and it describes it, but it may not be listed as this. I want to just be sure that we're clean.
I would recommend that you move the motion to go to executive session to after the Public Speaks number 2 and new business.
Okay, so I make a motion to move the executive session, or is it better to do it the other way around? Make a motion to move up, second public speaks, and then move up. All right, so now make the motion to move up our second public speaks. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Whitletter. All in favor? All right, that appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. Mr. Bonds, can we try community member Jennifer Warren again?
Unfortunately, she's not on the WebEx.
Okay, and that concludes our second public speaks. I'd like to make a motion to move up new business. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Whitletter. All in favor? Okay, that appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. We are now at new business. Is there any new business this evening?
I have
Board-
some.
Okay,
sorry.
I see
Okay.
board member Mouse being his hand, so I just want to see, I don't know if that's holding.
Let her go first. I'm okay right now.
Are you sure? Because I don't know how much time we have and I want to make sure you
No,
can
I
participate.
think I'm
before I
okay
go on
right
up
now.
on it.
And if I don't get to it, I'll bring up my thing at another time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Board member Whitletter.
So two things. The first, in terms of a data request that I have, and I just want to connect with board colleagues to see if we have consensus on this, but I'd really like to see the pass-fail data for this past academic school year. And I'd also like to see the STAR Renaissance data, both from the first test that was administered, or the first, you probably don't like to call it test, exam, or I don't know what it's used as, but from the first half of the year, and then the one that was given more recently, so we can compare the two and have a conversation about about student achievement over the last year, especially that it was their first year back in schools after COVID. So that's the first thing that I'll just wanted to ask others if they're interested in also collecting that information too.
I see a couple heads nodding, so I'm just going to go ahead and assume yes. Dr. Taylor, I know that with the change in leadership in that with the CNI team, you can work with your team and present that. I know it usually goes through committee and then to the board. So if we can just follow that process and get it to us either July or August, you know.
Can we expand on that a little? I agree with Caitlin, but I would also like to see how the amount of students that are sorry, aged are higher on their age than their grade level. And
Under age
also
accredited. Sorry. That was just something I was saying for you.
I couldn't
I know.
thank you. I couldn't think of it.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to help you.
No. I thank you. I appreciate that. And also we implemented a new grading system at Columbia High School, which made it so that the kids didn't fail. Like there was no F. Like a F became a 50 something, I think a 59 or something like that. And so I would like to see how many students utilized final grades were affected by that. So just to understand, is that something we should be continuing? Is that, where we are?
Thanks for that. I just want to clarify. My understanding is that students could still fail. They just couldn't get zeros. There was a floor
Right.
on the
Well,
grade level.
yes. So using like the floor grade. So the floor
Right.
grade changed.
I just want to
So I would
clarify
like-
because
Yeah.
I would then make the first request moot, right? If people couldn't fail, then we wouldn't have pass-fail data. So I just want to make sure we're very
I wanted to make sure, right. I would like to see the students who utilized that, that was utilized.
So thanks for that, Dr. Taylor. I know, like I said, these things usually run through committee. If you have any comment.
Yeah, I just want to share just one point of clarity, just to make sure that we're all, again, leaving with the same information. There's been a lot of talk about that piece. So the floor grade was a previous conversation. What we implemented, again, was a 4-point scale where the actual outcome numbers, the 98, 87 averages, were not a part of the calculation, right? So they were calculated per marking period on the 4-point scale, which was, I think, explained a few times in our committee system. So the missing, not having a floor grade, I think that was kind of a separate discussion that was more so, and we can again explain it when we share the information, because the difference in that, right, is if I average a 17 or something, right, and I had a really challenging semester, that would be averaged into a 4-point scale, which is of course 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 17 to 100, which is how we updated Power School first marking period last year, or yeah, I believe so. And so that we explained it, and I'll make sure that the board gets an update on that. I would just ask for a little grace, because this time of year, there's we're managing all of our summer programming and people are on leave as well. So I don't have a full team, full week, every week to properly prepare for something like this to happen probably before August. So I would ask that we be allowed to work through August to prepare for this so that we can do a thorough job in doing it and engage multiple leaders, and also remembering that some of our folks are 10-month employees or 11-month employees. So again, I have no problem providing the information. I think it's normally for the last couple of years been part of our early fall CNI discussions. And doing it before then will be a little bit challenging, but we can get that done by August. And we can also provide an update again, just resharing that 4-point scale conversation.
Thank you. Any other comments on this piece of new business? Board Member Wright?
Yes, I think we should move as swiftly to try and help our children as we do these other things, such as the pool and renaming stuff. Where children are the descendants of slaves, and we're still looking for information and things to help them. There's settlement agreements. There have been things going on here for years that we have not addressed, and we're still moving along at the speed of a turtle when it comes to our children. And I would like the focus to go back on them. And I thank my two board colleagues for bringing up the issues dealing with our kids who are overaged and undercredited, and who's following them to make sure that they're succeeding. And for us to sit here and say we're going to wait until August or September, our kids have been waiting forever. When were we going to address that? That's enslavement to me, right here in the South Orange Maplewood School District.
Thanks, Ms. Board Member Wright. I just want to again acknowledge that we haven't received it for this year, right? But the school year just ended, but we did receive underage and uncredited data back in 2020, 2021, I believe. One other
Nothing in terms of how we've helped these students to overcome the issues.
Let me finish, Ms. Board Member Wright. Thank you. You raised your point. I just wanted to add a little bit of color to it. So allow me, please. The second piece I just want to remember is that there has been a change in the law that may affect the way this reporting is done. And so I think that as Dr. Taylor and his team gets that understanding, that will help inform the way that it's done. The last thing we want is, inaccurate data presented to us, right? We know that the state allowed an extra year for the 2020-2021 and 2021-2022 school years, so that even if you age out of 21, you have an extra year. So I think that needs to be accounted for in the calculations that Dr. Taylor and that the board's asking for before we receive it. So I just want to make sure that when we do receive it, it's accurate. So if it takes a little longer for it to be right, I think we should all be comfortable with that.
Well, it seems
Any
that
other comments on?
we can
Remember, right, please. Let me see if anyone else has any comments before I come back to you. Dr. Taylor.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, Board Member Wright brought up that nothing, and I'm using air quotes, nothing has been done, and it's just not accurate, right? I mean, the board approved Cougar Cares to launch in a pilot in the 2020-2021 school year. That was expanded again this year. That has been significant in impacting students who had academic challenges. If the board recalls, we gave multiple presentations on both the pilot and year 2 of that engagement, where students were able to receive intensive support when they had previously demonstrated challenging academic outcomes. We also, with the board, implemented additional STEM supports in our middle schools to help that bridge to Columbia High School. Of course, we intensified our summer programming last year and continued that intensive intervention this summer. So I just want to make sure, and that's just small, right? Because our student reps and I had this conversation as well. We went through the laundry list of all the interventions that we put in place with the help of our teachers and administrators, including, as we shared in CNI, the lunchtime math support that was in place for students at CHS who had that challenge. I mean, there's a lot. The tutorial that we've done with both Achieve and using our teachers and outside parties. So I just want to be careful in saying that nothing has been done, because it's not true.
One other thing I just want to clarify for all of us, frankly, is that, when board members say that, there's a settlement out there that we haven't done anything with, puts us in potentially a legally precarious situation, because number one, it's not accurate. And number two, we have a board members conflicted from participating in that discussion regarding compliance with a settlement. So I just don't think we should be having those discussions here in public, because we don't want to, we don't want to put ourselves in a precarious legal position in two different ways. Board Member Malspina.
Dr. Taylor, speaking about summer school, last year we were given summer school statistics to understand exactly how many students are utilizing summer school and the racial breakdown, and how many kids need credit recovery versus that. Are we going to be getting that, or are we going to have to wait until August to receive that? Or
Yeah,
September?
sure. So we haven't started the summer programs yet, right? So even though we have students who have enrolled and students we've given scholarships to and all those great things and advertised it, we also have competition and other programs and outside district stuff and folks who travel. So we want to make sure that what we share with you is solid, confirmed information. So I will check. I know that the CHS team is tag teaming the coverage of summer school to be supportive of one another, and I'll be meeting with them and following up with them as well. So yeah, I mean, as soon as we have the information is viable, I'd be more. I have no problem sharing information. I just want to be able to share it in a thoughtful, complete way, because I know that's the high expectations that the board has for the information that you receive.
Thanks. And again, just a reminder, a lot of these things can go through committee, so let's utilize that avenue as well. Any other new business this evening? Remember what letter?
I just wanted to see if I was an outlier here. So again, we're supposed to use this to build consensus, but we received a petition from 250, guardians that were requesting that the last day not be Monday, June 26th, but moved up. And I just would like to see the district do everything they can to accommodate that request. And I wasn't sure how others also felt about that, because I can have my say, but I don't know if this is something that we all feel strongly about. So I wanted to discuss that here with all of you.
Thanks for bringing that up. Obviously, we've all gotten it. One thing that I would say, well, I guess I might say three things. Number one is, the calendar is an operational decision. So we do, and I know Dr. Taylor puts a lot of time into it and consults with members of, different unions, PTAs, HSAs, et cetera. And then obviously, it gets presented to us. And I know these are, and I don't remember what the first calendar was, but I know we've voted on two separate calendars for the 22-23 school year. So we also had the opportunity. Now, from what I'm just saying is all of us, either, I don't want to say missed it, but didn't recognize that this might be perceived as a potential hardship, right? And so with that in mind, there are ways to, there's two different calendar conversations happening, right? More days off and then not ending on a Monday. And then we've also had conversation about what to do on future primary election days, right? So a lot of that conversation is happening. I think, there's probably some ways that it can be done, but I don't think, I think we should also recognize, sorry, I think that was a motorcycle. Just recognize that, we do, when we see these, we get these calendars, like we talked about one thing, we should also, we should, look closely. To be frank, I graduated high school on a Monday and I didn't really think anything of it. I think I did miss my first day as a CIT. And I went the next day, but I recognize that, it is perceived as a hardship and that there are ways, there can be a way around it, but it's probably something that should be done towards the end of the year versus the beginning of the year. I think the last thing, at least as a parent, last thing I would want is to find out that the first day of school has moved up. So there's that. Board Member Valimani?
I just wanted a clarification. Are you saying that it is possible as we go through the school year that the last day of school may be actually pulled in? Because that would, I think be a lot more confusing than having something that is well set on the calendar.
Dr. Taylor?
I agree.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing this up, Board VP Whitletter. We're giving it thought, right? We're being thoughtful about it. We're looking at what it means, because that calendar is like a jigsaw puzzle. When you move one thing, you have to move another thing, right? It has to be synchronized. So though we've acknowledged the concern, we haven't given up on repairing it. We're just trying to do it in a thoughtful way, understanding that one of the biggest for the folks here who worked at the high schools, the graduation site is reserved a year in advance, right? So that's part of us investigating what, if anything, can be done to address it. But those folks have been heard, and we haven't given up on it. I just want to be thoughtful in looking at if it can be addressed, and the most thoughtful way of doing so without causing unexpected consequences, right? That could, domino into other things. So the board can trust that we are looking into this, and we'll definitely have an update for you. By our next board meeting, we'll be able to tell you what we found and what we've been able to address. But we're not leaving it. We're keeping it top of mind with the work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Any other new business this evening?
I'm gonna pass and wait until next time.
Okay. Seeing that, we'll close the business and make the following motions. Board of Education will meet in a closed session Monday, July 18th at 6 p.m. Note that's the time change, 6 p.m. in closed session at the district meeting room, 525 Academy. Oops, no. We'll be meeting in the superintendent's office at 525 Academy Street in Maplewood to discuss personnel, legal matters, and other negotiations and other matters to be determined at a later date. Immediately following that closed session, the board will meet in public session Monday, July 18th at 7:30 p.m. in the district meeting room, 525 Academy Street, as well as using online video conference platform. Action will be taken. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank
So
you.
just one point of clarity. The actual agenda says 6:30 on the 18th. Did you mean 6:30 or 6?
I think we need to move it to 6, and I'll explain when we get to the exec section. And also we'll have an online video conference platform for the executive session as well. May I have a second? I think I had a second from board member Whitletter. All in favor? That appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. I'll now like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at Wednesday, June 29th, 7:39 p.m. and move to executive session. I just did that, right? Adjourn to executive session. We will not be coming to public sessions. Let me just start that all over. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session and will not return to public session and end this meeting at 7:40 p.m. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, board member Siders. All in favor?
Thank you. President Joshua, can you tell us, did you send a link? I might have missed it. I've been not
I'll send it.
communication.
I'll send it to you right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stay safe, everybody.